So, guys, I want to talk about AEW, and there's a lot of different talking points about All In. It's definitely going to be a pay per view that is very, very consequential. And one of the things that I do want to talk about is why I don't feel MJF should cash in the Casino Gauntlet match um, on Adam Page. And what I'm trying to say is this: that with the Casino Gauntlet, there is a reward for winning that, and that means you get a championship match anytime, anywhere, just like Money in the Bank or Feast or Fired in TNA Wrestling. And a lot of people are predicting MJF to win, and there's a lot of reasons why. I'll give you 10 reasons why I don't think MJF should win this. That first of all, if you're going to have Hangman win, you want that to be a really good moment. So ultimately, it's almost like, how should I kind of say this? It's like when Bryan Danielson won the WWE Championship, and then they had Randy Orton take that away from him. So when you do stuff like that, yes, it creates a new heel heat, but also you're not giving people a good pause, really. Like, let people bask in the moment, really. So it just ruins that type of momentum, really. And I think that you have to think about the ending of the show, really. Should the ending be that Hangman goes through this hellacious battle and then MJF cashes in, and it's almost like, he gets put on the back burner, really. Just like when CM Punk beat Hangman Adam Page for the AEW Championship. So we really can't treat Adam Page like you put in all this work, really. You've gone through a tournament, and now we're going to have somebody just steal your top moment, really, because then it almost feels like, why would anybody want to be in that spot, really, when someone's going to take that opportunity away from them. The next thing is that there is a lot of shelf life in Mystico versus MJF, because, and I think I'm predicting this to happen, that Mystico is going to cost MJF the Casino Gauntlet match, and they're going to have one more match at Forbidden Door. And one thing in professional wrestling that you have to do is one of two things. That if there's a feud that's not working, like Jeff Jarrett versus MJF, you get rid of it. And sometimes there are situations where something's going to be hot. So CM Punk versus MJF, they went to that. But there are other times too when Adam Page and MJF can be something in the future. But Mystico versus MJF is good. It's getting a lot of attention, really. It seems like MJF is investing a lot of time in it. So it's ultimately like saying, you have a really great appetizer and you have a really great dinner. So enjoy those things before you get to the good dessert, really. So you cannot just do things like, Hangman and MJF could be a really great match. No, let that wait, really. Let that wait a couple of months. Let's have Hangman feud with other people. So that way, MJF can, feud with Mystico and go through that. And then also Mark Briscoe as well, really. So go through those people, let's just do multiple feuds. Let's do multiple, storylines. Let's hold things off a little bit. So that way, you can make money longer term, really, instead of just, rushing to something. My next big reason is that ultimately, can you trust MJF as a champion? Because I remember, with Adam Cole, he drew that out very, very long. And then the other thing, too, is that he said he was going to be a serious champion, but he was doing dance-offs and other things like that. So you have to ask yourself, if MJF becomes a champion again, would he be a good champion? Would he take it seriously? Would he understand that if he's in the Hurt Syndicate, that they're all about hurting people, being tough, and picking fights with everybody? So would you want to create a situation where maybe he's dancing, or maybe he brings out a bunch of white women again, and they're dancing with all of them and all that stuff? So I think it gets to a point where you have to kind of wonder, can you trust MJF to be a serious champion if he gets that? That's that's important. My next argument would be that when it comes to MJF, that that he's been a champion for over 400 days. So I think that one thing that would be annoying is that Mox's been champion for a long time. Hangman's not been champion for a couple of years, really. So, like, and MJF had a long title reign. His title reign's still memorable in some aspects. So it doesn't feel, it almost feels like, it's a continuation, really. So, and I just don't think people want to see that. It's almost like saying, oh, man, like, we have to go through MJF for a while, really. So, that's kind of been, like, an issue as well, really. Like, it's almost like, let's give it to Hangman because he was champion, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. Not a lot of people remember his reign, really. So it feels a little bit more new to have Hangman. And then my fifth reason is that I think right now people are a little sick of long title reigns because I don't want something like where MJF is the champion and it's almost like, oh, well, maybe the Hurt Syndicate and him are going to run AEW until All In next year when Will Ospreay takes the title off of him at Wembley Stadium. That's not good, really, because it's almost like saying, oh, well, it's like saying, oh, well, we have to have long title reigns and we have to have factions, really. I'll talk a little bit about factions, but, Roman Reigns was champion for like about almost 4 years with the Universal Championship. And then the other thing, too, is that Mox has been champion for I think almost 9 months. And then MJF was champion for 400 days. So, and then you have Okada, who's been champion for over 400 days. And Mercedes has been champion over 400 days. You have Athena that's been champion for over 800 days. So eventually, 900 days. So eventually, when you have championship reigns that are very, very long, it gets repetitive, really. And I think that if you make MJF the champion, think about when is it appropriate to take the title off of him. And I think unfortunate with AEW is that they really set up, World's End and also All In are like the best times to take a title off of somebody. But I think if you do the Hurt Syndicate and you try to get the most that you can out of them and storylines and feuds, it would make sense that you put the title on MJF at All In. It makes sense to take him off next year's All In, really. So it just feels like, okay, we have to go through another year of long title reigns. I think my sixth reason is people are a little sick of factions. And that happens a lot in AEW, like the overdue factions. So we have so many company takeovers or interference type of things. That's happened way too much. Because you have the Bloodline, you have the Death Riders, you have Seth Rollins thing. In TNA Wrestling, you had the Main Event Mafia, you had Aces and Eights. They had other factions in TNA Wrestling, but professional wrestling needs to take a break from factions because that's a little just way too repetitive, really. And it also makes your wrestlers look bad. Oh, well, the only way you can be on top of the company is if you have 5 or 6 people causing carnage and whatever. So, fans are faction fatigued, really. So if you have the Hurt Syndicate, in charge of everything, I just think that it's okay, we go in for Death Rise to Hurt Syndicate. So what's the next faction next year? I'm going to do the Don Callis family. And I think my seventh reason is MJF has never made a new star. I'll say the only person he made was Wardlow, but I don't consider Wardlow a star because where's Wardlow now, really? Adam Page made Swerve Strickland. Adam Page made Adam Page, really. I can say MJF made MJF, really, but Adam Page made Swerve Strickland. So it's almost like, what would happen if you have Adam Page versus, Anthony Bowens, Adam Page versus Kyle Fletcher, Adam Page versus Daniel Garcia, Adam Page versus, Kenny Omega, Adam Page versus, Powerhouse Hobbs or Samoa Joe, Adam Page versus, Moxley or Claudio, Adam Page versus, maybe 2-on-1 of the Young Bucks, Adam Page versus, Okada, Takeshita. Some of these people are people that can help AEW in the future. So if you take his body of work, really, and you see what he's done, really, with Swerve, really, it tells you, okay, well, Swerve never became a champion. Swerve never became a box office or pay-per-view draw until his feud with Adam Page, really. So with Wardlow, he only had one match and a bunch of momentum, and then they killed it, really. And I understand that it's also Tony's booking, and then also Wardlow has, muscles. And the way it works in AEW is, unless your name's Samoa Joe, if you have muscles, you don't go that far, really, But can you really trust MJF being the champion when he's not built any star really? And my next argument that I would say with MJF and Hurt Syndicate is they could be used to rebuild the tag team division, because honestly that's been one of the big issues with AEW. What would happen if the Hurt Syndicate and MJF? What would happen if Shelton got hurt, or Shelton got taken out by a team, and then you did Bobby Lashley and MJF as a tag team for a while? Or what would happen if you did something like Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs versus the Hurt Syndicate, or you do Mystico, Bandito, and Masca Dorada versus the Hurt Syndicate and MJF? Really, you can do like triple team matches or a Freebird type of thing, really. And I think that maybe MJF can be like more like a backstage agent or coach and be like, hey, you know what, guys, you're feuding with us, and we can actually help you out, really. So wouldn't MJF be better off in the helping out with the tag team division, where Adam Page can be more in the World Heavyweight division and help that out, really? So they can help out really the tag team, the trios division. And we've not really seen MJF do well in a tag team. Well, yeah, he had some with Adam Cole, really, but that ended short. So maybe he could be a trios champion or a tag team champion. That could be one idea, really. And I would also mention too that I think another big thing is that MJF is Hollywood. So that's also been another issue, because you saw Darby go away for about 6 or 7 months, and MJF does filming, he does other projects, and he's also kind of teased about joining WWE, really. So, do you really want that guy being in charge of your company, where he's like, okay, you know what, I'm talking about bigger and better opportunities, where Hangman really is solely about AEW, really. So it's just, it's like, you got to go with somebody who's committed to the company. And I also think my last and my final reason is that Hangman is just a better character, because MJF, he's always been the sociopath, manipulative, a manipulative sociopath. That's really MJF's character. He's not really changed that. But also he plays into a mentally ill sociopath, because sometimes he manipulates people, he acts quirky, with, I think it was with CM Punk, he tried hugging him and other things like that. Really, if you watch some people with special needs, or you work in a psych ward, he almost exhibits a lot of the behaviors that you would see of a special needs sociopath, attracting attention, making people feel sorry for him, manipulative, insecure, emotional, being the life of the party. He definitely comes off as somebody with a lot of attention issues, and also wanting power by controlling people, manipulating people, being I can treat the audience whatever type of way, really. He's been the same type of manipulative sociopath, power hungry character. But Adam Page, he went from a guy who palled around with the Elite. They're one of his buddies, really. He went from being a cowboy, and then he switched to kind of bitching to CM Punk, really. Then he switched to this whole thing with Swerve, and then later on it turned to him versus Swerve, and then when he burned down Swerve's house, that took him to another level. That made him a superstar. That made him cinematic, really. And now he's a cowboy that's seeking redemption after just walking wounded, really. So I would rather I would rather kind of celebrate a character like that kind of character journey, because we all go through that, where we change, we lose our way. We want to just to earn some success that we've been chasing, really. So for all these reasons, I just think that the best option is to keep it on Adam Page. Keep that title on Adam Page. So if he wins, don't have MJF come down and take it away from him. It would just do a lot more harm. It would piss off a lot of people if that happened.